everyone.
Hey guys.
Welcome back to the Tandem Fandom Top 10 list. I'm Courtney.
I'm Mick.
And today we're going over our number 6 and number 5 spots.
That's right. We're really excited as we're churning through the list. We've enjoyed you guys' comments, enjoyed seeing what you guys consider your top 10 wrestlers.
Because there's so many to pick from. I mean...
This is true. I mean, in something that has spanned just decades and... wrestling's essentially been around since like the 1920s at least.
Yeah.
You've got so many people to choose from, but again, we've narrowed it down. But to catch you up, just so everybody's on the same page with our list so far, we'll kind of give you a quick recap. Number 10, I had the Olympic gold medalist, it's true, Kurt Angle.
And I had a real sexy man, Rick Rude.
At number 9, I had the hardcore legend, right here on YouTube, Mick Foley. Bang bang!
And I had Goldust.
At number 8, I had the straight edge savior, CM Punk.
And I had just a common man, Dusty Rhodes.
At number 7, I have the man who gives us a gift every week, the gift of Jericho. Drink it in, YouTube. I had Y2J Chris Jericho, baby!
And I had the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
I said Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
I said he was Stunning Steve.
What?
I said the Ringmaster.
What? Now, without further ado, let's dive back into it. Number 6, who do you got?
I have somebody who is legitimately the best female wrestler in the business today and on the road to being the best of all time. Of course, I am talking about the legit boss, Sasha Banks.
Ooh, I got to agree with you there wholeheartedly. I think Charlotte is right up there, but man, Sasha's she's up there higher.
She's got that it factor. It just comes out of her pores.
Absolutely.
And she just loves this business. She grew up loving this business. She wanted to be a wrestler. She wanted to be Eddie Guerrero. Listening to her talk about when Eddie passed breaks my heart because I just, I wasn't a part of that crowd. It didn't affect me, but now, listening to her talk about it, I'm like, Viva la Raza.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was there, and it was really hard for a lot of wrestling fans, especially people who had watched Eddie in WCW, people who had, seen his career change, evolve, and rise in WWE. So it was really hard, but absolutely, I'm with you. Just the way it impacted her. It wasn't like my favorite wrestler passed away. It was like my family member passed away. That's what it felt like.
Well, she had tickets. She had tickets to go see him, or to go see a wrestling event that he was going to be at, and he died before she got there.
Yeah,
that's heartbreaking. But to have somebody just so into the business that it just literally breaks their heart when one of the wrestlers passes, because I've been there.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes.
I've been there far too many times. But she just was so passionate about it from a young age. I love seeing the pictures of her backstage, with her cousin Snoop Dogg, just grinning, just cheesing, just so happy and excited, and I get that energy. And not only is she super passionate about the business, she's really good.
She's fantastic. She's one of those people that really gets the wrestling business on all aspects, from a character standpoint, from a promo standpoint, from an in-ring performance. And the little things that she does, it's amazing. It's amazing to see. I mean, she's somebody that I don't even think you have to say she's one of the best female wrestlers. I think you can really say she's one of the best wrestlers today.
She's a top-tier wrestler, and again, she just draws you in, and you can tell that she just has that it factor, and she has that passion. When they unveiled the new women's champion belt, I was like, I need to see that on Sasha's waist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the way she reacted, seeing her face on the side of the building at this year's WrestleMania.
It was beautiful.
It was unlike anybody else. And I know, shout out to Bayley. She has the same kind of passion. And she's a real close second to Sasha in my heart. Because those two girls, they just have it. And my absolute favorite Sasha Banks match is the Iron Man match between her and Bayley. Because those superstars really earned their titles as superstars in that match. They put on one of the best Iron Man matches in history. I can't wait to see another one.
Yeah.
Because it just needs to happen. It needs to happen. I can't wait for Bayley to get called up so we can see more Sasha. And just her attitude, her outfit's fantastic. She really stands out, and she just owns it.
When I look at Sasha, a lot of times WWE for many, many years was criticized, and I believe rightfully so, for the quality of female performer that they had. For the longest time, you had athletic models that you taught to take a couple bumps, do a DDT, and go home. And, Sasha represents really this new era that they talk about a lot, and a new breed in what it takes to be a female wrestler.
Yeah.
Because having an Iron Man match, I look at Sasha and I can see her being in a ladder match. I could see her being in a cage match. I could see them put, a submission only match. I could see them in a match that, and for many, many years, TNA did this. They put their women performers in ladder matches. They did not hold them to this, no, you go out, you have your 5 minutes, and you go home. No, they really pushed the boundaries in terms of what they allowed their women to do, and I think with Sasha, you're going to be able to see something like that. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Iron Man match.
The quality of matches that she puts on, the work she puts into her in-ring prowess and performance, she is a top-tier wrestler.
Definitely.
Just good. Good.
She's excellent. For me, I'm with you. I love the Iron Man match. I think I probably prefer her versus Charlotte for the women's title, for the NXT women's title. When she won, just the emotions and just everything. And I'll tell you what it reminded me of. I don't believe they said this on the broadcast. I have to go back and watch. But when Shawn Michaels won the world title, they very much did the boyhood dreams come true. I look at Sasha in many ways as the female version of Shawn Michaels.
I could totally see that.
It's what she's always wanted to be. It's what she's always wanted to do. She wasn't I played, softball or volleyball, or I was a gymnast, or I was this or that. No, she has literally only ever wanted to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's amazing. So, yeah, I gotta say that's very.
I think she is the icon of this current women's revolution that we are in.
I think she's something very, very special. I really do. I think that's part of the reason why they've been holding back on letting her, because I think they know she's special.
She's hot fire.
Yeah, she is. I think that's the one word you can really use to describe her as special. So from one former NXT talent to a current NXT talent, number 6 on my list, the Demon, the real rock and roller, Finn Balor. And I also am including a lot of his work as Prince Devitt in this, because
without Prince Devitt, there is no Finn Balor.
That man, when you talk about special, that's a word I use a lot to describe Sasha. That is Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt, Prince Devitt, whatever you want to call him. Special is... that is what he is. He is this kind of perfect blend of charisma and work rate and just big match capability rolled into one, that he's something that we haven't really seen before. And admittedly, he's not the best guy on the microphone. He's capable, But it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to go out and cut like a Seth Rollins or a Kevin Owens level promo or a Dean Ambrose level promo where you're, okay, go out and talk for 5-10 minutes. No. In one motion, in one gesture, he can set the room on fire.
Well, he has that quiet intensity.
Yeah.
And he uses that to his advantage, especially because when he does get loud, it's that much more intense. Like this feud that he recently had with Samoa Joe.
Oh, it's incredible.
By the end of it, when he was like, "No, that's my title. I'm coming for you, Joe," it was like...
Yeah, I agree. It's using it smart. You know, here's a guy that you never really see get emotional. You never see get fired up. So when he does, it has that much more impact.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, I was familiar with Prince Devitt before he came to WWE.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't watching a lot of New Japan at the time, but I was familiar with him. I was aware of who he was. Mostly had seen a lot of the body painting that he had done with, like doing Venom. He did Anti-Venom. He did the Joker.
Carnage.
You know, Carnage. Yeah, he did a lot of really cool, eye-catching things. So I was very excited when WWE signed him, and then he came in, and it was just like, this guy's incredible. And, you know, I dove in more because, again, I was aware of the Bullet Club, you know, his position in it, you know, and it was super cool, you know, too sweet me. It was super cool, and it was the NWO again, and it was great, but he's just something so much more, and from his debut, the way they handled him, the way he carried himself, the way he spoke, everything about him, just, it's charisma. It screams it. And on top of that, the guy can work his ass off. I mean, here's
one of the matches that I love that is a perfect example of how much he can work his ass off is him and Kenny.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure when that match was, but the one that he always makes me watch.
Is it? Yeah, that
ends up outside.
Yeah, it was in 2010. I believe it was his second defense of the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, and he and Kenny was working with DDT at the time. He wasn't in New Japan yet, and I have probably watched that match at least 50 times. I watch it constantly.
No complaints.
It's so good. To me, it's like the perfect match for those two guys because you basically capture almost every element that those two guys have as wrestlers in that match. It's so good. If you've never seen it, check it out. Look it up. It is on YouTube. It's 2010. For the junior heavyweight title. And, you know, kind of going back through his career and looking at a lot of things that he did and watching the rise where he kind of really started as a tag specialist. He was like I don't want to say he was the guy Jen J-Brone. He was kind of the guy Jen J-Brone. Because he was a guy that they were like, you could put on a good match, you're entertaining, but ultimately you're going to lose to the Japanese talent.
Right.
You know, so watching him transition from, you know, being in a tag team with Taguchi to, you know, winning the 2010 Best of the Super Juniors, then winning the Junior Heavyweight Championship, having just bust-ass matches, as Stone Cold would say, bust-ass matches for that title, and then just changing completely into the real shooter, the real rock and roller, you know, Prince Devitt, you know, founding the Bullet Club, becoming this evil, despicable, you know, cheater, turning his back on the New Japan fans. Yeah, just popping the collar, which gave us the birth a little bit of the paint of what would become the Demon, where he was like, I'm a little too flashy. I need to, you know, what can I do to make the Japanese hate me a little more? And so he was like, I'm going to black my skin out so I'm more like a shadow. And of course, it made him even more over because it's super cool. But, you know, again, like, this is a guy who, he loves this business. And, I mean, he's told the story about, you know, he would sit in his room and he would watch, I believe it's the 92 SummerSlam. He had it on tape. He would pop it in, build Legos, and just watch that, like, every single day, to where he essentially memorized the entire pay-per-view.
Wow.
So, looking at that and seeing him come to NXT and seeing him become the longest reigning champion and all the great entrances that he's had, you know, with in Tokyo and London and
the
Dallas.
Tokyo Demon, the Jack the Ripper in London, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Texas.
It's amazing, and
the Balor Eye.
Yeah, it's unreal. I remember, the first time he did the paint in NXT, we were blown away. Because we hadn't really seen something like that, and so many matches. I mean, his matches in Japan, like I said, my absolute favorite is him and Kenny Omega. In NXT, his stuff with Samoa Joe. He's just so I'm trying to grab him because I can't stop thinking about the Kenny match. Like literally, I see Finn Balor. It's the first match I think of. It's one of my favorite matches, just period to watch. But the thing I like about him the most, especially with the Demon gimmick, it's something that he changes. It's something that he evolves, and I feel like it's something that he can grab onto. And he's got that in his pocket. It's a gimmick that I think that you can
pull out for pay-per-views.
Exactly. Or if he wanted, he could do a run with it where he's always in the paint. He could do a thing where he doesn't do the paint for several pay-per-views, and then you get to like a no DQ or a Hell in a Cell, and the Demon emerges again. It's a gimmick that I think you can do a lot of things with, especially in a day and age where gimmicks aren't really what they were, and things have changed so much. But, speaking of gimmicks, the number 5 on our list is one that we have in common, and one that we agree.
Such a big part of the business, such a big part of wrestling history that he couldn't help but take up 2 spots.
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely the greatest gimmick in the history of professional wrestling, and it's a gimmick that can't die. Of course, we're talking about the greatest big man wrestler of all time, the Phenom.
The Undertaker.
No top wrestler list, in my opinion, is complete if it doesn't contain The Undertaker.
Right, if you leave him out, you better have a damn good reason.
The impact that The Undertaker has had on the business is amazing, and I don't believe it's one that will ever, if it's ever able to be...
You can't duplicate it. It's lightning in an urn.
Absolutely.
Because not only, it's a fantastic gimmick, but... Mark?
Yeah.
The Undertaker. I can't even call him by his real name.
Too much respect. Mr. Taker.
Mr. Taker. You couldn't... I don't think you could put it on another man and get the same result.
I'm with you. I don't think you can. It's lightning in an urn. It really is just his combination of athleticism, size, commitment to the character.
Yeah.
Just...
And his not only his stature, but his body language just really sold this, the looming overpower.
Going back and watching, not just his debut, but really the first, several months after his debut, the reaction of the fans, the faces, and it's not just like, here's a child. No, here's a grown man who is afraid of this character, and it's amazing. Again, in a time and a place where you had wrestling hockey players and garbage men and repo men and dentists, he stood out and was different and powerful and terrifying, and
even with Paul Bearer being his manager, you kind of look back now and you're like, wow, that's goofy, but it worked, and it really added to the creep factor, the strange factor, because Paul Bearer really bought into it as well, so he was always like, yes! Oh, yes! And you're like, oh,
Yeah, and you know, again, he's had so many crazy moments in the business with, you know, the Hell in a Cell with Mankind, the, you know, wedding with Stephanie McMahon, the what else? The Buried Alive matches that he's had, all the other Hell in a Cells. His, of course, his matches with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. I mean, and the thing that I like about him as well, because you look at him, and he is this, you know, huge, lumbering presence, but he's hands down the most athletic and gifted big man in professional wrestling.
Sure.
He moves around not like a guy who's, you know, sometimes over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
He moves so well, and he's so fluid, and watching him go over the top rope and walk along the rope. And
jumping through the ropes, over the ropes.
And this is especially in an era where you didn't have to do that. You could just be the big, you bounce off me and fall down.
Yeah. Like when, early in Big Show's career, he was literally just big man.
Yeah, and with Taker, he never really worked that way. He was an athlete, he was athletic, and he was skilled, and it's just amazing to watch a man that big glide around the ring. I mean, he and Kevin Nash, or at the time he was Diesel, but their match at WrestleMania it's fantastic, because you just get these two behemoth athletes just going at it, and just it's a spectacle. And you know, again, like I said, his matches with Shawn Michaels, especially when he became 17-0, it's amazing. It just, the stories that he can tell with his facial expressions.
Well, and the evolutions of the character, because he's always been the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Once he became the Undertaker, he was never not the Undertaker. But the Undertaker took many forms and faces and robes and bandanas and
it's something that's cool, because you know, even he's constantly, it's like he's constantly thinking, and he's constantly trying to evolve, and like, well, what can I add here, you know, from the debut to the, okay, well, now I'm gonna go from this color gloves to this color, and
right, because like he started out with the gray, and then it turned to the purple.
Yeah, and just, you know, like when he had the problems with his eye socket when I believe it was crushed, he wore like the Phantom mask. I mean, it's functional, but it was something that aided the character, and you know, kind of the changing of, like, he would do with like his facial hair, and his changing his hair color from red to black, and
having it straight.
You know, just changing from to where he's got more of like the big collar, and it's more Dracula-like, and abandoning the hat for a while, and you know, where having like the black tear on his face, and of course completely changing the character and becoming the biker, the American badass, and then from that transitioning into like what I believe is probably his best heel run as, you know,
Ministry of Darkness.
No, well, that's amazing, but I think his best heel run is Big Evil, where he's straight up just this big badass Texas biker, just destroying everything, and
which completely works for the man.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't do it again. Like there's no way. And we've said all of this about him without mentioning the streak.
Oh,
which you know,
which kind of happened by accident, which is funny to think now.
Yeah, because I think for a while they weren't doing it intentionally. It just kind of happened, and I think they got to a point where they're like, "Oh,
well,
wait a minute."
Which match was it where he gets up and
Ric Flair? One of my favorites, specifically because of that moment. I mean, it's a great match, but it was that moment. I mean, that's kind of the birth and leading into Big Evil, leading into that heel character. But it was at that moment where it clicked. Like, he's never lost at WrestleMania.
He's an unstoppable force.
It's 10-0. That's something else. And I mean, yeah, there's been a few WrestleMania matches that have been less than stellar, like the handicap tag, where I believe it was A-Train and the Big Show. It was supposed to be him and Nathan Jones tagging, but that fell through. Of course, Giant Gonzalez, where Giant Gonzalez gets DQ'd because of like chloroform, or is it chloroform?
That knocks you out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I was like, it's not chlorophyll.
No, it's not chlorophyll.
But
chloroform ether.
You know, so there's been a few that were kind of duds, but then for every Giant Gonzalez, there's a Shawn Michaels. Yeah, so he's a guy, I think, that really you can count bad matches on one hand.
Yeah.
He's just a legacy. I mean, thinking about the sort of things that he's done, he's somebody who loves the business. He's respected in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Not only can you never do a character like The Undertaker, I don't think you can make another wrestler like Mark Calloway. I
right,
don't.
yeah, especially to have gone through the eras that he has with, as we said before, so many wrestlers have passed from, and he's still, not only is he still here, he still wrestles. He's still a part of the business. So these young up-and-comers are seeing this ancient power.
Yeah, it's cool
and
because
he just commands so much respect.
He does, and I mean, like you said, just transcending almost through the generations and remaining relevant, especially
This
because
living legend.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult too because whereas the gimmick's great, it's limiting. You can't have the Lord of Darkness signing autographs at the Kmart for the new line of toys that came out. You can't really easily do that. So the fact that he's remained on top, the fact that he's remained relevant, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. And just...
I mean, even after crucifying the chairman's daughter, I mean, they still didn't fire him.
Yeah, it's that in itself is incredible how he still had a damn job and got a paycheck. I'm with you, though. I think the Ministry of Darkness, it was one, as weird as this is to say, it was one of the more sensical things to me in wrestling.
Right, you have this supposedly supernatural kind of evil with the caskets and the purple lights. You know, why wouldn't he have this following, this cult following, and why wouldn't he have sacrifices? This was like, what, late 90s?
Yeah, this was smack dab in the middle of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And I think that even, speaks a lot for itself, too, because this is smack dab in the middle of, Rock saying he's going to lay the smackdown on your candy ass. This is Austin 316. This is all of that. And then you've got, like, okay, well, here's this undead wizard and his band of undead cronies that is, abducting Stephanie. Where to, Stephanie?
So it appeals to the crowd that can't relate to the rattlesnake.
Absolutely.
Which, hey. I mean, I can relate to the working man, but...
Swig of wine for the working man.
I love me some voodoo and hoodoo.
Exactly. And like I said, I love Lord of Darkness, I love Ministry Taker, but I really do think that Big Evil is my favorite, because when he just made the switch to American Badass, it was very strange for me, because I was a big fan of the supernatural, the dark Undertaker, so I didn't quite embrace American Badass at first. It was okay, but he still had a lot of traits that he had early on in his career as Undertaker, and he didn't speak very much. He was still kind of that presence, but he didn't have the look. Because he's in like blue jeans and a jean vest and the bandana and the long red hair, and it was like, yeah, I guess. But then when he cuts off his hair, he dyes it black again, and he's the biggest, baddest dog in the yard. And
he's
it's
got
like
the black tank top, and he still has the
gloves.
MMA gloves.
Yeah, and he's on the bike still, but he comes out and he was just whooping people's ass. He'd take the steel chair and put it on their throat and spike them on the ground, and he got the hardcore title because it was just kind of like, I can.
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's like, I can. Who's gonna stop me? And it was that kind of thing that I'm like, well, this is how he should be.
Yep.
Because he is the biggest, baddest dude in there. It's like nobody's gonna pick a fight with him. One of my one of my favorite backstage stories about the Undertaker
I love backstage stories.
involves Kurt Angle on
Yeah.
my list, and I believe it was on what they call the plane ride from hell, which was crazy. But Kurt and Vince McMahon like to goof around a lot. And Vince, being very super hyper competitive guy, would like try and wrestle around with Kurt. Kurt being an Olympic medalist and everything. Well, Kurt decided it would be funny to grab Vince from behind and take him down in the plane. Mm-hmm. So he does. Well, Undertaker was asleep. Mm-hmm. He wakes up, sees Kurt Angle on top of Vince McMahon, doesn't say anything, just grabs Kurt and chokes him unconscious. Like that, he saw someone was attacking Vince. He didn't do anything. He just grabbed him and choked him out because the commotion woke him up. So
right, like they were fighting or something.
Yeah, that's what he thought. He thought somebody had attacked Vince, so he just
that's awesome.
and he choked Kurt out. And it's just one of my favorite stories because I think that's the other amazing thing about Undertaker. When he got hot, and it was during a time where like Nash left and Hall left, and guys were jumping to WCW, and I'm sure they would have paid big money to have him leave. He never left. He was loyal. He stayed. He was legendary. Kevin Nash is very fond of telling a story about where Taker had to wear a flak jacket underneath his top because he had broken ribs. But he didn't want to take time off, so he's wrestling with broken ribs as wrapped under a flak jacket so he could try and protect himself. Also, crushed eye socket. Yeah. Okay, let me throw on this Phantom mask so I can keep working because they need me. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. It's amazing loyalty.
Would you consider him the icon, the franchise of WWF, WWE?
I think so. Unfortunately, he's not often looked at in the light that like Sting is for WCW in that. But I think in terms of importance to the locker room, absolutely. He was the judge for Wrestlers Court. He
always had the best punishment. Buy him a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Yeah, that'll get you off. you buy the judge can be bought. But I do. I think in many ways he's a kind of a constant because he's constantly at the top of the card. Again, the gimmick limits you a little bit in terms of he can't really be the face of the company. So he's never really had like a ton of championship reigns because the champion needs to do meet and greets and Good Morning Americas and signings.
Yeah, like
and
you can put him at Toys R Us signing toys and stuff, but yeah, you can't really put him next to Regis and Kelly.
No, it just it doesn't fit, and so I think in terms of that, he's not viewed as that guy. He's not viewed like that, but I feel in terms of importance to that locker room, importance to the business, and the fact that I think
loyalty to the brand.
Absolutely, and loyalty to Vince McMahon in a business that there's not a lot of loyalty.
Right,
you go to the highest bidder.
You can always go somewhere else.
That's true. So I think in many ways he is the franchise, and every time the bell tolls, I get chills still. Yeah. And admittedly, like we talked a little bit about the streak, I don't need an Undertaker match every year or multiple times a year. I love the matches because they are so good and he's so talented, but his presence, just showing up, chokeslam a dude or tombstone a dude or just making the entrance with the smoke and the fire and just everything. So and knowing that we are close to the end. I mean, it's been over 25 years just in WWE.
Nobody can wrestle forever.
Yeah, and it's strange because there's never going to be anything like him. I mean, there are things that'll be somewhat similar, like Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor with the Demon. There are similar aspects, but when The Undertaker goes away, I feel like there's a void in professional wrestling. I mean, it'll never be filled. There will never be another Undertaker ever. Hell, I don't even think there'll be another Mark Calloway. Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be somebody who'll get close, but yeah, I don't think he can do it. I mean,
Well, I think the only man who could would be Kane, but
Yeah.
unfortunately he came up right alongside him.
and that's
Unfortunately and unfortunately.
yeah, and that's somebody too who, in many ways, is similar to the Undertaker. You know, in terms of evolving the gimmick and changing and growing, and he's just so, you know, tied with the Undertaker, and it's kind of cool to see that his career has mirrored it a little bit in terms of evolution and change. But yeah, it's
Seeing them reunite last year
yeah,
was some of the best. You know, you get that nostalgia and you're just like, awesome.
If-
the
Oh,
turning
yeah.
around and doing the fists together, good stuff.
If you had to write the exit for Taker, how if you can, I mean it's tough, but how would you write his walk into the sunset or the
I don't
moonlight?
know. I don't know. Like, does he pass the gauntlet to like a Bray Wyatt and then just walk into a mausoleum and never walk out? Or
It's tough.
do you even have a goodbye?
I think if he had it his way, there wouldn't be.
Right,
I
you would just
think-
kind of fade away.
I think he would just, that would be it. We wouldn't see him any longer, and they would announce that he's going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I think if he had it his way.
'Cause I just don't think you can write the final match and market it as the final match. Like, even if they know it's the last match he's ever going to do, I don't think it would be worth it to tell us.
I don't think it should be something that we're told.
Right.
I think it should be definitive, being beaten definitively, and the story of the torch has been passed without it being said. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and a lot of ways they could have had him ride off into the sunset with him losing to Brock.
Which I'm kind of surprised they didn't, but I like what has happened since then. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that just shows you the power of the Undertaker and the power of the streak. That, you know, Brock wasn't what he is right now. He wasn't.
Right.
You know, he had come back. He had lost. You know, he lost to Triple H. He lost to John Cena. So he wasn't the beast incarnate.
Yeah.
But beating the streak rejuvenated Brock. It made him the monster again, which is funny because the guy was the UFC heavyweight champion. He didn't need
Right.
really, he didn't need it because he could just be like, yeah, I'm a legit badass, so
But,
yeah.
you know, in the streak of everybody's, like, hero, and boom, there's your big bad heel.
Yeah, and it was impressive.
It did the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people have very strong opinions about the streak, you know, should it have ended. You know, do you think it should have ended? And are you happy with the way it ended?
In the moment, it was like, oh my god, I can't believe they did this, how could they? But seeing what came from that, and how Undertaker has still been utilized, and how nothing has really changed for him or with him, it really just put Brock over. Now it's just a historical moment, and it's a part of the storylines, and I don't think, because it had to end.
I mean, it's pro wrestling. It has to. There's no undefeated streak that lasts.
But now there's not the burden of, what if he gets hurt? What if he can't wrestle anymore and we never ended it? Or what if we were going to and then he breaks his leg?
Yeah.
Or something. Now that pressure is gone, and I think he can just ride into the sunset on his own terms. It doesn't
Exactly.
have to be this big, you know, pomp and circumstance.
Well,
I think it takes away a lot of burden.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think when you look at the, you know, beating the streak, what it did for Brock, and I think Brock was really the perfect guy to give the streak to because he doesn't care about it. And I know that, please YouTube, don't hold the anger. Hear me out first. I think Brock was the perfect guy to give it to because he didn't care.
Right.
You know, it wasn't something that like, well, here's this young punk, or here's this guy who's been
There's
around
somebody
for...
who thinks they should
Yeah.
be the one.
It's a moment that's almost too big for a lot of wrestling fans, and a lot of wrestlers are fans. So I think that was a moment that is a lot to put on the shoulders of any young talent. Brock Lesnar, number one, is a legitimate badass.
Right.
It's an easy sell. Brock was the UFC heavyweight champion. Of course he could physically beat the man that is The Undertaker.
Right. And he's probably the only wrestler that you're never going to see an "I'm sorry, I love you" from.
Yeah.
So, because he's just there, he's doing his job.
Is there anybody else you would have given it to?
I kind of thought it would have been cool if Bray had beaten him, if he had ended the streak in their match.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like, you know, Bray is that new creepy backstage entity that's always there, always watching.
Yeah.
And I know that he really idolizes
Absolutely.
The Undertaker.
That match was a very, very big deal for him,
Yeah.
too. Hearing him talk about it in interviews. For me, you know, he's faced... he faced CM Punk. He faced, you know, Shawn Michaels. Being a big Punk fan, I think that could have been really cool. I don't think Punk... number one, I don't think Punk needed it. Number two, when you look at Punk's exit from WWE, you see why.
Right,
He
that
didn't
really
get it.
would have cheapened the
Yeah.
end of the streak.
Some people would have said maybe John Cena could have taken the streak. John didn't need it.
Right.
He really didn't.
Randy, you know,
Yeah.
that would have, the legend killer, you know, that would have been a good time, a good
He wanted to
storyline
give it to Randy.
to put it in.
He wanted to have Randy end it, and this was years ago. He wanted to have Randy be the one.
And that would have been perfect.
Randy did not want to.
See?
Again, it's a lot for a young talent. If I had to write it, I think Brock was the perfect one. Shawn Michaels, I think, would have been probably the next logical to beat it. I think Shawn, you could have really done that. I would have had him have won the second match they had at Mania. But, you know, I think Brock was the right choice.
The way it went, I'm okay with.
Well, because it's kind of like, this is a strange analogy, but it's kind of like the Highlander. Mm-hmm. You know, you cut off one immortal's head, you take his power.
Yeah.
But then if another immortal comes along and cuts off your head, he takes both of those powers.
Uh-huh.
So every loss that Brock Lesnar has, if he has a clean loss, you're not just beating Brock, you're beating The Undertaker. You're beating the streak, in a sense.
So it makes Brock's losses that much more.
Exactly, which, you can count on one hand the number of clean losses. Actually, I don't think he's had any clean losses.
The man's only
that I can
weakness
think
is a
of.
shot to the pills.
Which is amazing. Paul Heyman, buy the man a cup. But yeah, if I had to, this is a long way to get back to this, but if I had to write an exit, I would have it end where it began. I would have him leave at Survivor Series. I wouldn't make it a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I would book him in a singles match. I would have him lose.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to be destroyed. He just has to be beaten, show the opponent respect,
Mm-hmm.
walk away, and that's it. They say nothing else of him, and then they announce that year, going into the Hall of Fame, The Undertaker. So you know at that point, that was the end.
Wrestling anymore. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Just as he came to the business, let him leave. He debuted.
So as it began, shall it end.
Absolutely. And the man that I would do that with is the Demon Finn Balor.
I circled it around.
See, it's all connected.
There you go. Finn gets called up. Mania match.
Yeah, I would do Survivor Series. I would not do Mania.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then he couldn't go into the Hall of Fame. So call Finn Balor up. Survivor Series. Hall of Fame.
Can you imagine what the entrances would look like? I think WrestleMania would be the bigger stage, obviously.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the entrance of the demon against the dead man?
Oh my god.
I can see it in like classic boxing posters. The demon versus the demon of Bray County, Wicklow
versus the dead man of
Death Valley.
Death Valley.
Just look at it now,
The
YouTube.
demon of Death Valley and the demon of Bray Wicklow.
Yeah.
Ah.
Right? Right. It just writes itself, YouTube. So.
Get Vince on the phone. Excuse me, Triple H.
Hey, pal. I got an idea for The Undertaker. Well, I think that wraps us up for number 6 and number 5. Thank you guys for watching again. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the video.
Reach out to us on social media. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody's input. We were loving seeing your list so far. It's super fun. Stay tuned for number 4 and number 3. We're closing it out. We're halfway through.
We're going home.
And remember, like we always say, if you're going to be a fan,
bring a friend.